Hello, and thank you for visiting the Squatchy Wild Band channel, where the truth is always free. I want to show you a few video clips of Dr. Robert Malone's recent interviews with Joe Rogan in December of 2021 and with Tucker Carlson on February 9th, 2022. And I encourage you to look beyond what you see with this man and to think about who he really is. Check this out.
And the lab I was in, just serendipitously, happened to be the one that first discovered a retrovirus being involved in an immunodeficiency syndrome. This is 1983, 1984. So I kind of cut my teeth on the very earliest days of the AIDS outbreak and the development of vaccines for AIDS and those kinds of things.
I've been involved in every major outbreak since AIDS. This is kind of what I do.
So he's been involved in everything since AIDS, just like David Miller, who is now on the board for Germinator, just like Deborah Birx, who is now on the board for ActivePure, and ActivePure is a partner with Germinator, just like Robert Redfield, who is the CDC director and part of the COVID task force, and let's not forget Dr. Anthony Fauci and his good buddy Larry Kramer, who started ACT UP, which David Miller was part of.
I've got many friends in the intelligence community. So I'm kind of a pretty deep insider in terms of the government. I know Tony Fauci personally. I've dealt with him my whole career.
Now, with his connections to AIDS and Dr. Fauci and all of this deception in mind, if you watched episode 2 of Back to Life, you should understand the Smith Modernization Act of 2012 and the Church Committee and Operation Mockingbird, and how the elite use the CIA to distribute information to us through our media channels to control us, and how David Miller is a glitch in their system. Now pay attention to what Dr. Malone says here.
Okay, so you know, Joe, you're in media.
I guess.
What we're experiencing is a coordinated media warfare, the level of which we have never seen before, and I and my peers who are experienced in multiple outbreaks have never seen this level of coordinated propaganda. You're aware of the Trusted News Initiative?
Yes. Can you explain it to people?
Yes. So the BBC announced to the world last fall that this organization that they had led the development of, which ties together big tech and big media in service of the government.
So he's trying to appear to be an anti-establishment whistleblower of sorts. But listen to him carefully when he talks about his origin story, like he's some kind of superhero.
Please, it's Batman!
When COVID first hit, when the lockdown started happening in March of 2020, what was your position on all this?
So you're kind of asking my origin story with COVID.
Yes. I mean, were you initially, have you taken the COVID vaccine?
So the answer is yes. I've also been infected twice.
After you took it?
Once before. I was infected at the end of February because I was attending a MIT conference on drug discovery and artificial intelligence.
So this is pre-lockdown,
Correct.
February of 20?
But it goes back further than that. There's a CIA agent that I've co-published with in the past named Michael Callahan. He was in Wuhan in the fourth quarter of 2019. He called me from Wuhan on January 4th. I was currently managing a team that was focusing on drug discovery for organophosphate poisoning, ergo nerve agents, for DTRA, Defense Threat Reduction Agency, involving high-performing computing and biorobot screening, high-end stuff. And he told me, Robert, you got to get your team spun up because we got a problem with this new virus. I worked with him through prior outbreaks.
You haven't really followed my whole origin story here. I got a phone call from a CIA or somebody, the New York Times was in my house the other day. I didn't realize until afterwards.
Don't let them in.
Bad decision. The person was actually, we found out her beat is disinformation. So shoot myself in the head on that one. And she corrected me fascinatingly when I said I got a call from a CAA officer. She said ex-CAA officer. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Very well informed, are you?
Yeah.
So I got this call on January 4th of 2020 from this guy that I'd published with in the past that had been introduced to me as a CIA officer, and I'd actually met his handler and has a Harvard appointment. And he was in Wuhan at the time. And he'd been in Wuhan in the fourth quarter of 2019. And yes, you're using that look again.
It's involuntary.
And he said, Robert, you got to get your team spun up because we got a problem with this virus. And so I've been going since then, and really since January 11th, when the Wuhan seafood market virus sequence was uploaded to the servers. And I made a threat assessment.
There's a CIA agent that I've co-published with in the past named Michael Callahan. He was in Wuhan in the fourth quarter of 2019. He called me from Wuhan on January 4th. I was currently managing a team that was focusing on drug discovery for organophosphate poisoning, ergo nerve agents, for DTRA, Defense Threat Reduction Agency, involving high-performing computing and biorobot screening, high-end stuff. And he told me, Robert, you got to get your team spun up because we got a problem with this new virus. I worked with him through prior outbreaks.
That man is obviously a CIA-controlled scientist going on CIA-controlled media channels, feeding people CIA-approved information. Be careful listening to him. He's one of them, and he's spoon-feeding people this information for a reason, with a purpose, as part of a larger mission. And you need to ask yourself, why? And when you start asking questions like that and peeling back the layers of deception, then you're on your way to learning about truth. And ultimately, your journey towards the truth should lead you to Jesus Christ. Thank you.